Hi everyone, Materim here with another battle report. Tonight is another practice for Southern Assault at the end of next month. Um, I am bringing my Saurian Ancients versus Skip's Sylvan Elves. He brought them out of the closet for just to change the pace. Obviously, we're doing 4,500 points, and this is standard deployment and the breakthrough objective. And I apologize up front. I have had a terminal case of hiccups that I can't get rid of today, so I hope the voiceover for the video is not going to be too horrible because of that. But let's go ahead and get into deployment. Okay, starting off on the left, we have a group of 10 Pathfinders with a champion. Then the Pegasus Knights there are standing in for Kestrel Knights. He has 3 of them with, looks like just a musician. Behind that is one of his Forest Eagles. Then in the other forest, and this is the one that he got to place as a Wood Elf player, he has a group of 10 archers. And behind that is a group of 20 Forest Guard with full command. Next to that is a group of 14 Dryads with a champion, and in with them is the Dryad Matriarch, who has 2 spells to the lore of Druidism, and she has the Sacred Bark, which gives the unit Hatred. Then behind that piece of terrain there that's in front of his Tree Father is impassable terrain. But there is the Tree Father Ancient, and he has Entangling Vines, I think is the only upgrade he got. But that is the general. Then there is a unit of 6 Thicket Beasts. With the Thicket Beast is a Thicket Shepherd. Behind that is a second Eagle. And then there is another 10 Archers. And on the far side here is a unit of 10 Wild Huntsmen with full command. Now, Skip had actually been working on this list for a while, and he had done a couple of different versions, and I guess he messed up and brought the wrong version because he forgot to put a BSB in the army. So he is playing Sylvan Elves with no battle standard bearer, so that should be a lot of fun. Now, on the other hand, I don't really know the Sylvan Elves very well, so, excuse me, I'm not really sure what he can do, so I'm just going to kind of play this one by ear. Now we'll get on to my deployment. Okay, so starting on my left is a unit of 32 Saurian warriors with full command. They have the Gleaming Icon, spears, and are upgraded with the Jaguar warriors for the extra movement. So that's very different for me. I usually go with Serpent for the extra attacks. Next to that is a unit of 20 Temple Guard with full command, and they have the Banner of Speed, again to bring up that speed. Behind them is a Firstborn Warlord on an Alpha Carnosaur. He has the Spear of the Stampede, Lucky Shield, Starfall Shard, and the Potion of Swiftness. Next to that is my Taurosaur with the Engine of the Ancients. In front of that is a unit of 9 Skink Hunters with Blowguns and Vanguard. Then there are 2 single model units of Spearbacks in front of that. They're all hiding in the water there for fun. Then there is another unit of 9 Skink Hunters with Blowpipes and Vanguard. And then behind that is a unit of 15 Skink Braves with bows. In my Temple Guard unit is my general, the Coatl Lord. He has 4 spells to the lore of divination. He also has the Book of Arcane Power, the Jade Staff, Arcane Knowledge, which makes him a Pathmaster of Divination, and Unconquerable Will, which gives him the reroll on the first failed Dispel attempt in each magic phase. So this is a completely new build for me. You will also notice that I do not have a BSB. Unlike my opponent, however, this was by design. This was actually a slight tweaking of a list I found on the Ninth Age forums, and it seemed like a neat idea, essentially trying to use the extra leadership dice for the divination spell, or to basically deal with the fact that you don't have a BSB, and it saves you a lot of points so that you can have both the Quaddle and the Alpha Carnosaur in the list at the same time. So it's kind of interesting that we both end up playing without BSBs during this game. So my line of thinking, my opponent actually dropped everything first, which I think is a mistake for Wood Elves. I think he's used to playing more direct physical confronting armies, like Bretonnian or like Kingdom of Equitaine and the Beastmen. And so he dropped everything he saw, and as soon as I saw kind of how soft this left flank seemed, I decided to just go ahead and do a denied flank thing. And my plan is that the skink stuff over here on the right is going to try and keep his heavy stuff off of me long enough for my Saurian warriors and the Temple Guard to just go over there and crush that whole right flank, or left flank. I was worried about the scenario as well. In general, he's a lot faster than me, but most of his scoring units are pretty small, so I'm hoping that I can magic missile him to death, and that I don't have to worry too much about him sneaking the scenario out from under me. But obviously, with the Sylvan Elves going or dropping everything first, they do get the first turn. And we start with Sylvan Elves turn 1. My opponent decides that he needs to get the Wild Riders over here as fast as he can because they're really his biggest combat brick. You can also see here that my opponent kind of, he does this a lot, unfortunately, and doesn't leave enough space for his big monster infantry units. So he's got to kind of take some time to move around the impassable terrain with his thicket beasts. And they're kind of being blocked up by that 10-man unit of archers, and it's slow. So he's kind of hesitant about it. He doesn't come on strong, which I think is ultimately a mistake. I think he needed to push up much harder on this flank, because he's got to get those scary units to where they're threatening me, or they basically don't matter. He is bringing the eagle behind the Wild Riders, I guess, to save him for chapping up stuff later. I'm not really sure about the intent there because I don't really have any long-term shoot or long-range shooting. Best thing I got is the Quaddle's magic missile, which is still only 18 inches, so everything over here is still pretty safe. Then on this side, he's using the fact that I can't see him over the hill to kind of slowly move up. What he doesn't realize is that with I took enough magic where these soft units here on the right, I can march up onto the hill and I'll have line of sight on all of them and just blow a unit of my choice away pretty much, which is ultimately my plan. But he's coming up tentatively. And then we go into magic and he tries a couple of things with druidism and I stop him, and I didn't realize that his general had tree singing, so after I used all of my dispel dice stopping his other spells, which his spells were garbage. He actually only got the first 2 from druidism, so he has Strength of Stone or Strength of Earth, whichever one. Ultimately it doesn't matter because I did not let him get a single spell off other than tree singing, so his divination magic just did not accomplish anything. But so yeah, he moved tree singing, or did tree singing, and ran this forest up with all 3 units in it, 6 inches. So that was kind of nice. Then he goes into shooting, decides to start trying to shoot off my skinks to prevent me from chaffing him up, and doesn't do great. Only gets two of them dead here, and then it's my turn. So like I said, I push up hard on that weaker flank. With the extra movement, I end up getting both of the source bricks, the Temple Guard and the source brick, up onto the hill. Um, I had forgotten that the Taurosaur doesn't have Water Strider like some of the other stuff, so that's why he's at kind of a weird angle because I had to run him around the side of that water to get his march on. And everything else I pushed up. I've got like I marched up with the skinks. I didn't vanguard them up at the start of the game because I didn't want to make them too easy a target. But I do know what I do kind of recognize what he's wanting to do, so I need to get them in chaffing position so that I can protect the flanks of my big bricks from particularly the dryads because they can get in there and do some damage. So I want to keep them tied up with very little points if I at all can. Um, I also move up the two spearbacks a little bit so that they are just within range of the dryad group, who do not have cover in the forest because there's not but a few of them that are actually in the edge of that forest. And that's pretty much my plan. If I can get a good magic phase, I have a lot of targets for some magic missiles, and I want to cause some havoc over here. And that's exactly what I do. I get unerring strike off, and it's massive. I inflict like 9 wounds after everything to the Kestrelites and blow them away. And the Pathfinders end up panicking from them dying, and they turn and run from my Saurus brick. Nothing else is affected, and I give the extra die for leadership from the spell to my farthest out skink unit. Then we go into shooting, and the between the two spearbacks, I don't do great. I kill a single dryad from two spearbacks. At least at this point, my opponent is. I'm not wounding great, and he's throwing his uh, ward saves where he needs to. So, Sylvan Elves turn 2. He decides to do a long bomb charge at my skink brick. I kind of figured this was a mistake on his part. I decided to stand and shoot and actually kill one of the wild huntsmen from that. Then over here, he tries to charge the dryad. Oh no, I'm sorry. What ended up happening is he tried to charge the dryads into the first skink unit that was there. I stood and shot with them and didn't accomplish anything. Then he charged the Wild Riders into the flank. I fled, so they ran way off to the left side of the screen here. Didn't panic anybody. And then he redirected into the skink brick, and I shot him. That's what ended up happening. So this shows the movement after the two failed charges. The Dryads ended up having to go in that direction because that's where the skinks ended up. And I think you'll see a better picture of them here in a minute of where they ended up. But again, I think he probably would have been better in pushing hard, using his increased movement to get around to my side before he starts trying to charge into anything with the Wild Riders. Then over here, he's pushing everything up. Again, I just don't think he's being aggressive with his eagles. And as you can see, he's just not moving enough because he still wants to get shots in. So he's causing a traffic jam. I think in his place, what I would have done is said, not worry about the movement and just marched up these archers like crazy so that his big thicket beasts can get out and into action because they're just an absolute waste of a lot of points just sitting way the hell back there. Um, Over here, he did end up rallying the Pathfinders, so they turn around. Oops, excuse me. And I I think he moves the 2 units in the forest just a little bit, but not very much. And you can see he flew his eagle behind my units, which I'm not quite sure why. Um, I think my opponent still has a hard time realizing what he needs to do with those eagles in terms of chaffing them. I probably would have put them in like directly in front of my 2 units because they're close enough where he could have caused like maneuverability problems with both of them, and it would have choked me up pretty bad, or at least had me spend a turn blasting it off the board with magic before I could move forward. You can also see down here at the bottom, that's where the skinks ended up after their flee. So no, I hold him down in magic. We go to shooting, and again, not great shooting. He ends up killing 2 more skinks, and I'm not panicking. And over here, those guys that he didn't march take 1 more shot, and they kill 1 more skink. Um, hmm. And I think the Pathfinders took a shot here, and they weren't supposed to, because they had panicked. But 3 swords. Oh, nope, that was the stand and shoot. Yep, I see now. So yeah, Saurian Ancients turn 2. I decide to go ahead if he's not going to get them out of the way or do anything to block me up. I'm going to take those points. So I went ahead and charged the Saurus block right into his Pathfinders. They killed a few coming in, and I'm thinking I'll clean this up. In part because I kind of forgot how many attacks the Pathfinders have, so they'll do more damage to me than I'm thinking they will, but I still should have this. And everything here, I kind of reorganized my lines, spreading them out a little bit so that he can't block both of my monsters with 1 eagle. And I push up hard with the temple guards so that they get around to the side of these spearmen. If I can hit them in the flank, they're gone. You can also see his archers have fled because I think what I did was I actually started the charge with the Saurus into them. They chose to fled, and I redirected into the Pathfinders. You also see where everything else kind of moved here. I'm certainly sending those spearbacks at his uh, uh, what wild huntsman because they apparently go down easy. Um, but and then I've got my skinks up at the top. But during magic, I don't really get a great magic phase. Uh, and the only buff spell that matters that's within range is this back spearback, which I end up getting the stars align on to give him a reroll to his shooting to hits. And then we do some damage between the first spearback does nothing. The second one with the rerolls happens to kill 2 wild huntsmen, so I'm pretty happy with that. Then we go into combat because none of my shooting matters. I absolutely wipe out the Pathfinders, but they do a lot of damage to me. I think I lost 6 or 8 of these guys. It hurt. But when I struck back, there was more than enough wounds to go around, and they all died. So I reformed here, and this is still my plan of kind of sweeping along the side until he can muster something large enough to stop me. Uh, so Sylvan Elves turn 3. He starts off charging the spearback here. His other thought is that he might have charged the flank of the skinks, but if he had, he would have had to overrun, and it would have taken him basically right into the overrun path of my big blocks, and he didn't figure that he could handle that at this point. But my stand and shoot reaction was pretty impressive, killed another one of the wild huntsmen, so I'm pretty okay with him dying to have accomplished that. Then over here, things start going south. The dryads at the top charged the other spearback, and I figured I wasn't quite done with him yet, and it was a decently long charge, so I was going to flee. I didn't have to flee much. I figure I had the space, but I rolled like boxcars for the flee, ran through the skink unit, who panicked and rolled an 11 to run off the table. So that's not great. I've got my spearback way over here by himself, and I lost the skink bow unit, which, ugh. Now I'm a little more scared of this because that just completely kind of opened up this flank. And if he can hit with those Wild Riders and come through, this could be problematic. Um, Now, after that whole thing went down, he redirected his Dryads at my Taurosaur, hoping to get into them before I charged him, and he fa- completely failed the charge and ends up right in the crosshairs of a lot of death. The only plus side is it did get him out of the line of sight of the Temple Guard, but those two monsters are going to be more than able to take on those Dryads without too much trouble. You do see, though, that the Wild Huntsman did make it into the Spearback. I'm pretty much ready to write him off because he should die horribly to them. Then he starts bringing up the Eagles on the side here. He realizes that he can only chaff up one, either the Carnosaur or the Taurosaur. Decides to chaff up the Carnosaur, but in doing so, kind of left me an out if things go my way. I figure he's going to kill the Spearback. If he has a moderate overrun, I'll still be able to charge the Taurosaur at them instead, which will actually give me enough space to wheel the Carnosaur around the Eagle and still make contact with the Dryads um, once that's cleared out of the way. So that's kind of what I'm thinking the plan is. It was a good thought by my opponent, but just I don't think he's thinking enough about the circumstances of these movements to see where that's going to go. He probably could have solved that by parking his other Eagle in front of the Wild Riders so that they didn't overrun and force me to have to make a really long charge to make that happen, but that's all being made with the benefit of hindsight. And over here, he's still stuck. He can't get within an inch of this impassable terrain, and he's just absolutely unwilling to march with these archers, which is a huge mistake. If he had marched with the archers a turn ago, he probably could have succeeded in getting into these skinks, and these guys would actually be a factor here. You also see on the other end his archers in the back uh, did rally, so they're pointed off that way. I'm not entirely sure why. And oh, here's shooting. Yeah, I hold him down in magic again. And in shooting, he takes a bunch of shots at those skinks, kills a decent number of them, and it is enough for them to panic, so they run off and end up right behind the Dryads. And actually, that black box next to them indicates that the Dryads at least got off the, the Oaken Throne this turn. And here things go absolutely south for my opponent. The Wild Huntsman flub like an insane amount. He got a lot of attacks into the spearback and just ones all over the place. Uh, so he only actually succeeded in inflicting 2 wounds on the spearback. The spearback turns around and kills 2 of the Wild Riders. So he only wins by the charge and the banner. So I'm down by 2, but with no rerolls and my general way on the other side of the board, I do break, but then I outrun him. I end up right where you see me, and he rolled garbage for his pursue, which not only gives me an easy charge with the Taurosaur, but puts it in the flank, and those Wild Riders are pretty much done for. And on turn 3, that's pretty much what's happened. I charge the Taurosaur into their flank and get it, and I position it so that with a good overrun, I'll kill them and hit the eagle that's hanging out over there. And I managed to work the Carnosaur around and slam into the Dryads as well. I fail to rally my Skinks, and they run 2 inches, which just barely bounces them over the Dryads. And I rally the amazingly tough Spearback, and he turns around and just be like, "What? Come get some." However, this one has decided he's had enough and continues to flee. I think he ran off the board that turn. Um, and over here, I decide why take chances when overwhelming force can do. So I just move everything up for a combo charge against his spearmen next turn with my 2 big combat bricks, which should wipe them off the map with very few casualties. And then, just to be a dick, I added during Magic Phase Know Thy Enemy to my Carnosaur character, which makes him like weapon skill 8. Then during shooting, my remaining skink block here blows the other eagle up. And then we go into combat, and I don't do great. Between the impacts and the other attacks, I leave one of the Wild Riders alive, and he auto breaks, I believe, and ends up escaping me. And I rolled so much garbage that I didn't even make it into contact with the eagle, so I'm kind of hanging out there. Now, this would be a terrible thing if he had pushed up hard with those other units, because then they could have taken the Taurosaur in the flank. But right now, he had been playing too cautiously with them, and he doesn't have anything to take advantage of this going bad for me. And over here, the Carnosaur kills the exact right number of things he needed to make this awesome if he wasn't going to wipe everybody out. I couldn't touch the Matriarch, so I had to just kill Dryads, and I kill all but one of the Dryads in the Matriarch, so he auto broke. I chose not to pursue because I didn't want to overextend myself because I didn't really know what his big general monster could do. So they fled and ran off, and he has 1 Dryad left and his Matriarch, which means they're making their rally checks on half leadership, and I'm hoping he'll just keep running right the hell off the board. Sylvan Elves turn 4, the 1 remaining Wild Huntsman does not rally, but he rolls like garbage to flee and just gets to the top of the hill. The Matriarch and the Dryad also fail to rally, and they're within an inch of the edge of the board. And this is the point where he starts moving. My opponent decides his best chance for points is to go ahead and get these scoring units into my deployment zone and hopefully to contest the objective, and so we'll see if that works. Over here, he also brought his general out. I'm not entirely sure what his ultimate aim for that was, but he actually used the remaining eagle well and parked him right in front of my character, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get past it to charge into anything. So the eagle's got to die by the hands of a Carnosaur at this point. Saurian Ancients turn 4. I start with the Spearback going ahead and declaring a hugely long charge on the Wild Huntsman just to run him off the board and get the points. Over here, my combo charge is easily done. And I rally my 3 remaining little skink guys and spin them around. Sorry for the blurry picture on this one. And then I moved everything else over here, and got a beautiful unerring strike from the telepathic link, which is funny after I just put together a magic video where I was talking about, or the Saurian Ancients review video where I was talking about how I didn't think that was a great ability, but I threw unerring strike right at his general and inflicted 5 wounds on his general out of the possible 6. So that pretty much makes him a not threat at this point. Doubly so when I end up going into combat, destroying the spearman unit, and then overrunning 11 inches to slam my temple guard into the flank of his general. I'm thinking he'll probably kill a few of those guys, because I'm thinking he's faster than me, but I've got enough dudes there that I'll kill him. So, Sylvan Elves turn 5. Finally, the Thicket Beasts get into something, but it's really too late. Also, last turn, and I didn't take a picture of it, I guess, I did charge in and kill the eagle with my Carnosaur. But yeah, so they get into these skinks. I stood and shot and actually wormed a wound through on them on coming in. They're going to kill these guys, but basically what he's just trying to do is blow through them and get into my deployment zone because the thicket beasts are scoring. I'm okay with this. Being that my Temple Guard are going to take out his general, I figure I can send the 2 monsters after these guys and hopefully deal with them. The other thing I'm thinking of is his other archer unit is just too far away. Even at maximum march, he's not going to make it to my deployment zone before the end of the game at this point. So if I can get both my units in, worst case scenario, nobody gets the points, is what I'm thinking. He fails to rally again, and the Dryad and his Matriarch run off the board. And these guys start running like hell for my side of the board. Over here, he kills the skinks without problem, but doesn't overrun very far, so he doesn't get into my spearback who had gone after the huntsman last turn. And during combat here, my opponent whiffs it, only kills 1 of the temple guard, and I get lucky, and with all the attacks I had, I snuck a single wound through, which was enough to kill his general. And then I reform like this so that I can march towards his deployment zone. My Saurus are already sitting in his deployment zone, so I don't really need to move them at all. So, my turn 5, I go ahead and march my general's unit into his deployment zone and turn my monsters around so that they're going to go mess up some thicket fellows. And I had enough movement to get the spearback out of their front arc and go shooting after some elves. I go into... My magic wasn't great here, so I go into shooting. With the poison shots off of the back of the Taurosaur, I end up killing one of the treemen, or the thicket beasts. And then I do a good number of wounds with the shooting from the spearback into the archers here. They panic and run like hell, which pretty much means that he's not going to get the opportunity to contest the objective with me. And that's pretty much what he realizes too. He decides to go ahead and turn the thicket beasts towards my oncoming charge, hoping that he can pour enough wounds into something so he can pick up some points. And the archers that I shot failed to rally and continue to run. And so we go into my turn 6, and I decide to go ahead and handle this last turn like a man and charge in anyway. I'm figuring I'll put a hurt on him with that Carnosaur. Might even be able to wipe the unit out. But I definitely want to take out that character because those are points I'm certain I can get. And that's pretty much what happens. The Carnosaur kills his character. But beyond that, I don't do a lot. As you can see, I barely killed another Thicket Beast. He put 1 wound on each of my monsters with how he had to split it, and that was it. He lost by quite a bit, ended up breaking and fleeing, and again, as the story of my life, I do not catch him, so I end up getting half points for the unit. And that is the end of the game. This is the last picture I took. It was a victory for the Saurian Ancients. Because I managed to keep a lot of points out of his hand, he didn't really take a lot. I just absolutely dominated here, got the 17-3, and because I had two non-fleeing scoring units in his deployment zone, I also got the scenario, making it a 20-0. This was good. I like this list. It's nice to see what a Quaddle can actually do with a good lore and a little touch of luck. I gotta say, I definitely like the idea of having both the Quaddle Lord and the Alpha Carnosaur in the same list. It's pretty strong. My only worry is the lack of actual combat units I've got, which maybe the monsters can make up for one, but lately I've been getting used to having my Caimans and as an extra support, but if I'm honest, I mean, it's entirely possible that the Carnosaur guy is doing more than the Caimans would have done. But it's definitely interesting. I certainly think I like divination more than I had given it credit for. Um, this is a very interesting list. My only worry is it's a little light on scoring units. I basically only have the Saurian block, the little 15-man of Skinks, and the Temple Guard as scoring units, so that may make some of the objectives a little harder to come by. I definitely think, however, that a lot of the, at least magnitude of this victory is due to the fact that my opponent has not played Sylvan Elves in a long time. And if I'm completely honest, he's never really been comfortable with them, and how they need to play. And so I think he made some pretty significant problems for himself, um, in that, like, he kept his thicket beasts way behind the lines for way too long. He sent the huntsmen in against things by themselves when I think they would be better suited to flank charges after the thicket beasts like grabbed hold of something. Um, and he I mean, dropping everything up front to just kind of let me know what he had, I think was certainly a bad decision as well. But everything considered, we still had a good game. It was still a learning experience for both of us. Um, I've got a couple other Saurian Ancients lists I'm planning on playing in the next week or two, while we're still on this break from the narrative. So we'll kind of see what I can get. I certainly want to narrow down a good list, specifically because I found out that due to scheduling conflicts, I am the only one of the Fluff Masters who's going to be able to go to Southern Assault. So I figure if I'm going down there all by myself, I might as well at least try to do well instead of taking it with my usual lackadaisical attitude. So I'm really kind of putting some effort in trying to learn how to play my army better. Um, and kind of coming up with different ideas of things to do. So any advice is certainly more than welcome. I'm really looking forward to getting in there, and it doesn't hurt that the tournament organizer, Once Bitten, has posted pictures of the awards for the best in various race, and the one for the Saurian Ancients looks beautiful, and I actually want it, even though I still don't really feel like I have any chance of winning it. I am determined to give it my all. So any help from you guys will be certainly welcome. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please like the video and subscribe. Um, if you are very impressed by the work we do, please go to my Patreon, which is the link to which can be found in the comments below. or I'm sorry, the notes below, and donate whatever you feel appropriate. I certainly appreciate all those who have already done so, and hope that I can still make videos that you guys are enjoying. So, again, thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.